Global DIY Network, and to this, my 18th interview in the series, Meet the CEOs of the home improvement companies from around the world. My name is John Herbert. I'm the General Secretary of EDRA, the European DIY Retail Association, and of GIN, the Global Home Improvement Network. Together, these two associations have now got 218 members operating in 74 countries with over 33,000 stores, and our members' sales in excess of 330 billion euro. I would now like to welcome all our EDRA GIN members from all around the world, wherever you may be, and also to our partner association, HEMA, the Home Improvement Manufacturers Association, also with global members. I would also like to welcome the sponsors and the delegates who've already registered for our most successful Global DIY Summit to be held in Copenhagen this year from the 8th to the 10th of June. So before I start the interview, I would of course like to just say a few words about the unfortunate situation in Ukraine. I think it makes us all very, very sad to see this Russian invasion of Ukraine, the brutality of seeing schools, hospitals, where people are living blown up. It's just something that just doesn't fit into this day and age. It's terrible to see. I would also like to express my good wishes to the people in Epicenter, who is the leading home improvement company by far in Ukraine, who've been a member for us for many years. They have the largest stores in the world, over 20,000 square meters each store, and two of them have been totally destroyed by missiles, and one has also been severely damaged. We are now looking after the Ukrainian refugees that's come to Germany. And I would like to thank all our EDRA GIN members for the support they're giving to these Epicenter employees. We have 3 families, 2 with 3 children, and we are ensuring that they are looked after very well here in Germany. So now may I, on a happier note, please now welcome Andrea Scown. Andrea Scown is the CEO of Mitre 10 in New Zealand, and is the only second lady that I know of anyway, the second lady managing a home improvement store. So may I now welcome Andrea Scown. Hello, Andrea, and good evening.
Good evening, John. Good morning from New Zealand. Just before we get underway, and just in keeping with what you've just been discussing, I know New Zealand may seem a very long way away from what's happening in Ukraine, but we are obviously following it. And I just want to express on behalf of us all here at Mitre 10 that, you know, while we may be a long way away, our thoughts are certainly with Ukraine and with its European neighbours and allies who've opened their borders and their homes to all the Ukrainian people who are fleeing the war. So yeah, really, really sad.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, Andrea. Okay, well, let's start the interview. First of all, tell us a little bit about Mitre 10, because you're very far away. A lot of people in Europe particularly don't know much about Mitre 10. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Okay, so we have under our Mitre 10 umbrella, we have different formats. We've got about half of our 84 stores are what we call mega format, big footprint. And then the other half are just the Mitre 10 format. And then, of course, not commonly known, but we also have another banner called Hammer Hardware, which are our smaller format stores. We've got another 44 of them. And they tend to be typically in the smaller rural and coastal communities. So we're at about 130 stores across New Zealand. And we have just over half retail market share in the home improvement space here in New Zealand. And we're a cooperative, which is the interesting part. So all individually owned and operated stores, no company stores at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I've made 440 visits from around the world. And when people, or my wife says to me, which country would you like the most? Well, I like them all, but I must say from a nature point of view, when I came to New Zealand, I thought I was in heaven. It was so beautiful. The countryside was so nice, and the pastures and the green and the fields were absolutely wonderful. So I was very, very impressed with that. And the other thing, of course, is that I was also very impressed, Andrea, the very high standard of the home improvement stores in New Zealand. I mean, your stores were excellent, I thought, and very, very well managed, and locally managed, of course, which is very good. Then you have the competitor we shouldn't really talk about today, but also Bunnings being a very, very competent partner. So I think the consumer in New Zealand is very, very well served in home improvement.
Yeah,
you're new, as I said, you're new to the well, not new, you've been doing it 5 years. You came from the fashion industry. Was that a big change for you?
Yes, well, interestingly, I've worked in private equity for most of my career. So I've worked across so many different industries. Fashion has certainly been the most recent, but I've worked in agriculture in terms of dairy farm conversions in the Southeast United States, property development, racehorse industry, bloodstock from a breeding perspective, and wedding venues, you name it. There's been a whole bunch of stuff in there, but most certainly fashion was just prior. And I think I always joke that I built my resilience in the fashion industry. I think the switch in industry coming into home improvement, I probably felt it most keenly when it came to inventory. If I'm honest, of course, in fashion, inventory is a bad word. And of course, in home improvement, it was the complete opposite. And it took a while to get used to this fact of strength and breadth of range and depth of range and real stock intensity being so desirable. And hey, that's certainly a bonus in these current challenges we're having from supply chain perspectives to have good depth of stock.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had a very, very interesting career, I must say. And I do understand, and I wondered if it was a mistake, that you have 7 children. Is that
No,
is that true?
I do. I probably built a bit of resilience with that too, I guess. Yes, yeah. I do. I'm a very modern blended family of his, hers, and ours. So they're all there. Yeah, I've got 5 grandchildren as well. Wow. So lovely big family.
Gosh, you are living life to the full, indeed. But of course, as I mentioned earlier on, there's only Veronica Valdez in ProMart in Peru, and yourself, who I know has been ladies and been managers or CEOs of companies. Was that a difficult journey? Did you find it, or how did you, being a female coming to be a CEO, did you have many difficulties on the way?
I'd have to say, from a gender perspective, some of my greatest supporters and mentors have been men. So I've certainly never felt disadvantaged being a female. I think once you've worked across numerous industries and markets, you really do start to understand it is actually all about the people and about the relationships. So I think the move of sectors wasn't difficult. The real strong correlation between private equity and cooperative business, of course, and that the people who own these businesses, the people's money that you're making decisions about, are standing very close. And I think that's, I find that personally really empowering. It's interesting, in Mitre 10 here in New Zealand, we've got very strong female representation in leadership roles. Across our support centre, and on our executive team alone, 40% of the team are female. We're not quite at the halfway mark, but we've certainly made some inroads there. And I guess when you consider that we also have a slightly higher female customer base in our retail business, it's probably not at all surprising that senior female leaders would be attracted to the industry.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go on to the other. Oh, yeah, and I was going to say, yeah. So, and also when we think about Mitre 10, we think about Mitre 10 Australia, but you've got nothing to do with Mitre 10 Australia.
Yeah, correct. A common misconception. It's not very sensible, is it, to share a name and nothing else? Mitre 10 New Zealand is a proudly locally owned Kiwi business. It's always been entirely a separate business entity from Mitre 10 Australia. There was a gentleman's agreement to use the same name was made back in the 1970s, and that's when both cooperatives were formed. And I know that you thought there might only be two of us in home improvement, but interestingly, Annette Welsh is the CEO of Mitre Australia. So we've got another female down under. Her and I do share insights and catch up at times, and it's a lovely relationship to be able to share information. We're not competing with one another, so that's been quite beneficial.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, of course, and I was the CEO of a family business for 17 years, and I think in the family business, I think there are many advantages. You've got the big corporate companies, of course, have got great advantages of scale and everything else, and very professional, excellent management. But the family businesses, I all thought, where the heart and the real love of the business was there. I think it's got tremendous advantages, and I'm sure this is probably where you benefit from it, because they own the stores and there's a great identity towards it. So yeah. So your average store, what is it? About 6,500 square meters. Is that what you would say? Is that an ideal store for a Mitre tenant?
Yes, they're getting, to be honest, John, they're getting bigger and bigger every new store that we build, and a lot of our network has also expanded footprint and become larger, but our average mega store would be have floor area of just over 6,500 square meters. And that we refer to that as the big box. And that big box offer arrived with the launch of the Mitre 10 Mega concept, and our first store was built back in 2004, actually. So it's not surprising that we're at that point in time now where we're refreshing a lot of those stores or expanding or building larger. So the big box concept works very well down here. I know it works well internationally. I guess from two sort of avenues of benefits, I guess, from a business benefit perspective. We have a much larger product range in those boxes, so greater revenue opportunities. In our business, it enabled us to integrate a specific trade offer. I know it's called Pro in other parts of the world. For us, we refer to it as trade. That integration of that specific trade offer, and in one side of our building, we have a drive-through that's got building products in it, and in a builder's yard type thing in the footprint. But the integration of that specific trade offer when we built our first big box opened up for us a new target market within the building and construction industry. And that has been very much the niche that we've made for ourselves around what we refer to as a customer segment as being the small to medium home builder. And then, of course, all the sub-trades that are also putting things into those homes, or additions and alterations are probably as large for us as actual new home builds. So that was the business benefit piece. If I think about the customer benefits of big box and what we hear from customers and what drives our thinking around how we'll evolve the footprint, they love the warehouse environment from the perspective of it's a one-stop shop for both building a home and renovating a home. I often think of our stores as being like a large jet plane, and we have this body of the plane in the middle, very much the retail floor, and then we've got garden centres on one end, one engine, and we've got our drive-through and building products, the other engine on the other side, and getting that balance for every store is really important. Incidentally, we are the largest garden centre group in the country as well. So our garden centres drive a huge amount of foot traffic into the rest of our business. So that has a business benefit. And I think the scale of these stores enable our stores to service projects at any budget. So in our showrooms, for example, we'd have like landlord rental sort of bathrooms right through to high-end bathroom materials in our showrooms. So that space gives us that ability for customers, whatever their budget, to find what they want. And we have at the very centre, at the very heart of our stores, is what we refer to as a landing pad, again, the aeroplane analogy. And on that landing pad is a huge open area that changes out seasonally. So summer it'll be barbecues and outdoor furniture, and then winter it'll be heating, etc. So we use that, and that gives us the ability to offer fresh inspiration and real tangible experience with products.
Yeah, but looking at your concept about the aircraft, aren't you now running out of landing space now with 84 stores? You've got 5 million, just 5.1 million population in New Zealand. You've got 84 stores. Your competitors have got a lot of stores. Are you near saturation point in New Zealand?
No, not at all, actually. So we've got a pretty ambitious network plan. That we're definitely building more stores of both formats, both mega, big box, as well as Mitre 10s. And we're also starting to experiment with alternative formats, particularly to support our growing trade business. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to change things up, depending on what customers are wanting from us. But we, like I say, we've got slightly more than half retail market share in the country, but we've got lower penetration in some areas, including in our largest city, in Auckland. So we think we've got still room to put a few more boxes down.
Yeah, so you've still got lots of possibilities going forward then, yeah?
Yes,
yeah?
we have, yeah.
So what is your typical customer then? Professional and the consumer? Are you mainly consumer, or are you, I mean, Home Depot, I've heard are now 50-50, 50% customers, 50% pro. What about you?
Yes, well, this is the beauty of the cooperative model, I guess, and local owner operators evolving for the needs of their local market. So we're quite different. We don't have a cookie cutter approach. So we'd have some of our mega stores around New Zealand would be as high as 60% trade versus retail. And then we'd have other stores very, very low, like 4-5% trade. So we very much build and develop the offer for what the needs are in that community. But from a total revenue perspective of if you added it all up, if we were a corporate looking at a single profit and loss account, we're about 60% retail, 40% trade. From a revenue perspective, but like I say, the penetration is very different by store and region.
That's a very, very healthy balance, isn't it? I think, if the way you were saying it. But the other thing which I notice about Australia and New Zealand, and this is something impressive me that I don't see much in Europe, you are also one of the most trusted brands in New Zealand. Also, yeah.
Yes, we are, and I think that comes down. We know what our point of difference is. That is the customer experience. We are. There's probably about 5 operators in New Zealand in this space. Bunnings and ourselves would have the largest share in the space, but there are 5 different brands or banners, and we know we tend to be more highly. I guess people on the floor. There's more people in a Mitre 10, and that's very much towards that. From the opening advertisement, that knowledge and helpful advice. You've got to have highly skilled, highly knowledgeable people available there for customers when they need them, and so that's something that we really pride ourselves on. It's our absolute vision to help Kiwi love where they live, work, and play. And we love being part of their projects. And I think that trusted brand comes with that fact. You stand by your advice, you stand by your products.
That's recognised in New Zealand, is it? People realise, people follow the most trusted brands today, because we don't hear so much about that here in Europe. Yeah. Really?
Okay. Yeah. No, it's quite a big deal down here. And of course, we're a very insight-led business from a customer experience perspective, and all of our marketing strategies and whatnot are very much, everything flows from customer insights. And I think if I look at other home improvement businesses around the world, I think we've got a lot of inspiration in that space from the likes of Kingfisher Group, who I think do an amazing job around really being insights led in terms of what they're delivering for customer experience. So we try to operate in the same way.
But again, what impresses me most again about New Zealand and Australia is the way that you are far away, you're miles and miles away, but you're always looking for you're traveling, you're seeing, you're looking, you're learning. If I take the other spectrum, America, and I'm not being biased here, but I feel that there is much more of an isolation, that they don't really look outside. But I think what you can learn from Japan and South Africa and all the other countries, and I know that you've been particularly dynamic in Australia and New Zealand and you're coming to the Global Summit, I think, with about 6 people, because you're learning all the time and you're improving. And, you know, the consumers here in Europe don't know, you know, your businesses in New Zealand, but I think you're very, probably one of the world-class retailers, I would say, particularly in Australia and New Zealand. Yeah.
Thank you, John. I think from a culture perspective, since the 70s, the people within Mitre 10, the cooperative members, have always been well-travelled. They love to know what world-class looks like. And we've continued with that. So we do travel a lot, and we really value the friendships we've made in the home improvement area over all of these years, and we do a lot of work to maintain those. We do believe that we don't want to be slow followers. We try and be fast followers of what best in class looks like. So that's why it's wonderful to have the opportunities to come to things like IDRA and meet people, as well as the content that you're seeing over those days.
Yeah, well, I think retailing is also emotional. And when I see the adverts that you're doing, I think they're very emotional, and, you know, with you coming with you all the way and things, I think you're hitting a very good nerve on that. So congratulations on your adverts. I like those very, very much. So let's come to what we've been talking about all the time. And here again, New Zealand was the #1 COVID-19, 0 infections or almost 0. And all the world looked at your lady Prime Minister, who was so very strict, but you had the best results and things. But I think things have changed a little bit now. So what is the COVID situation now in New Zealand?
Right, well, officially, hot off the press today, we've gone into orange traffic light setting, which I was just waiting to hear when I could take the mask off. So I think that's quite exciting. I think to get back to your first reference point of when it all started, yes, we certainly have taken a very cautious approach. There's been a lot of support for the government's positioning on COVID. Back in 2020, of course, in our first lockdown, we had our stores closed for 7 weeks, which was significant. And then for our Auckland region, being the border for the rest of the world, Auckland region and those stores were closed again several times in 2021. So that, you know, the impact on that really, and this is where the locally owned and operated is just wonderful. You've got some of your best management and capability and thinking outside the box right there with skin in the game, running their own businesses. Look, it forced us to have to rethink our business model. We had to pivot our entire business to online and online fulfillment. We refer to it as click and collect. I think your members would call this curbside pickup or buy online, pick up in store, I think. But click and collect, we recall it in home delivery. That was the only way we could sell in that period. It was very taxing on our people. And our team would have been clocking up thousands of steps a day, picking orders from around the retail box. As you soon learn that you're not very efficiently laid out when it comes to operating like a distribution centre compared to the customer journey. So in terms of where we are today, look, supply chain still very challenging. New Zealand, we're definitely feeling our remoteness from global shipping routes. We've got still subjected to international port delays, I guess like a lot of people on this call would be. And shipping lines actually cutting services have forced significant increases in our end in terms of how we responded to that. We've really lifted our stock holding. So I think as of today, we're probably at about 26% higher inventory than the same time last year. And we've been maintaining that quite purposefully. But of course, the knock-on effect to that is where do you store all of this inventory? Because of course, our model is very much being built around a free into store, so product coming directly from suppliers into store. And so that's put a lot of pressure on having to have a lot of ancillary warehousing to take stock. And I guess the other the other piece around that, not surprisingly, is that we're now having to place orders much earlier than we would have been doing pre-COVID. And I imagine a lot of people on this call would be doing the same thing. So accurate forecasting is absolutely critical, but difficult to do. But that the beauty in a cooperative model, of course, all of these members, they own these businesses, they own their own balance sheets. They're very, very courageous around, we need the stock to be able to sell it. We never cancelled orders on suppliers through any time in the last 2 years. And as I mentioned about being a really large garden business in the country, a lot of those contracts are like forward contracts of up to 2 years. You know, those growers are growing for you. Indeed. So it would have been an unforgivable thing to do, to cancel orders on them. So we've stayed true to the belief that the Kiwi consumer would find a way to buy product and keep doing home improvement through the last couple of years. And we've been very fortunate that that's certainly how it's gone. So we've traded very strongly in the period despite those moments of disruption.
Okay, so the inventory is what, 10% more than normal or even more?
26% more at the moment.
Wow, yeah. That's amazing. 26%, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So that is really quite a thing. So how has the sales been then, Andrea? In the 2000, the pandemic started in 2020 in about March or April. So how were your sales in 2020 to 2019 and 2021 to 2020?
We've grown very strongly, and even better than the revenue line is that our market share has grown. So we know that we've showed up with customers very well through this period, through good operational work around the click and collect and whatnot. I think we won over a number of customers from other banners during that time. And I also think that the real bullishness in buying inventory and having good depth of inventory, not having many gaps on the shelf, has also done well for us when it comes to market share. So no, we're very pleased with how revenue and margin has held up. And again, it's the cost of holding that inventory, I think, has paid off for us, and we'll continue to hold inventory for at least, I'm imagining we're not going to see any real improvement in availability for a good 6 months is our prediction down here.
So 2019, if that was a normal year, 2020 and 2021 were very good sales increases.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and we're still holding up now. We're still in growth.
Really? I was just going to say, because the general consensus is worldwide that the sales in home improvement are going to be much stronger than they were, or stronger than they were in 2019, that people have really discovered their homes. Do you think there is really value in that statement? Are people spending more in their homes from your point of view?
Yes, I do. I think it's interesting. If I think about what a wonderful industry to be in through this time, I often refer to people's homes as being their nests. And I think in the last 2 years, to be in an industry where you're supplying everything that a customer will need for their nest, be it garden, home improvement, or the professionals in trade building other people's nests, I don't think they've ever been more important for everyone's well-being than in the last 2 years. So we've certainly seen that hold up. If I think of changes that we've really seen significantly in terms of customer behaviour down here, it's been that real growing preference for digital. And we've had if we've had good growth in our physical stores, we've had massive growth in e-commerce, which has been driven by the pandemic. And I think a real drive to true omni-channel behaviour, buying and like maybe viewing in one channel and then getting fulfilment in another. And the other thing that we've really seen has been customer attitudes towards sustainability, and brands are certainly expected to step up and do more. I make the sort of observation, and I would imagine it would be worldwide. When you go through real difficult times, people are operating and behaving in a far more humanistic way. And I think with that comes this really dialing up the importance of home, and in the working from home, of course, homes are never more important. So I think some of these things will stay. Some of these trends may move on, but I think some of these things will stay for some time and really have reshaped customer behaviour. That's our view.
Indeed. I think COVID-19 has really, it's damaged a lot of people's lives. It's made life very difficult in the last 2 years. But something has good come out of it from the home point of view. I think it's changed our pattern of life. I can't see... I don't think I'll ever work 5 days in the office again. I think I'll spend 2 days at home in my home office, and I don't think I'll visit quite as many restaurants as I did before, because we got used to home cooking every night now for the last year. So I think there's many changes. But you said also about online sales, of course. What an amazing change! I think, generally speaking, if you used a figure, I think maybe 4, 5, 8% maximum would be the sales of home improvement online. And of course, it caught everybody. Nearly every company in the world said, well, we're only just starting, but now there's been a tremendous, and I know you've done a lot in online sales. So tell us what you've done on online sales.
Yes, well, look, we have had massive growth initially when the pandemic hit. But of course, I do have to call out that we had a very low base for online. So look, we're not up at those sorts of numbers like 8%. What we have seen has been significant spikes in shopping online with each lockdown, but we've seen it settle again when stores reopen. So when I talked about a real omni-channel behaviour that's developed, we're seeing many, many more website visits. But perhaps they're going and completing those purchases actually in the physical store. So customers are more freely switching between channels. So I think the trend overall is significant and it's sustained growth in e-commerce. But I do think in our sector, there's this lovely interplay of actually coming in and talking to knowledgeable experts and doing aspects of your project still in the physical store. I can't imagine that will ever really change.
So really online is here to stay. I think the new word is hybrid or something. You've got the physical sales, you've got the online sales. So if you had a crystal ball and you looked at it and said, in 5 years' time, what do you think, what percentage would you like to think you would be doing in online sales in 5 years' time? What would you think?
Well, I think that we could do whatever we wanted to do, is my answer there. If we set a target for 10%, then we would range online to suit that. We would have targeted, personalised offers online to encourage sales in that channel. So I guess that's my view of online, and I've worked in pure play online businesses. You can make that business model as large as you want it to be. Yeah. For us, it's very much a complementary channel to our physical store network. And I see it staying like that. So I'd imagine we will probably not get as high as 10%, but I may be surprised, and we will respond to what customers want. Ultimately, we've got a lot of product online now. We have again, in the cooperative model, you have the ability for local stores to have their own local ranges as well, extended ranges. And we've now got those ranges available online too. So yeah, I think we could make it as big as we wanted, John, but we don't personally have it in our strategy right now to grow it at the expense of the network. Network growth of physical stores is our priority.
Yeah, I'm pleased you said that, because Jim English, who you maybe know from the Home Depot, and he wrote this very brilliant book recently. Jim always said that, we mustn't neglect the physical stores, the stores that bring the money. The online business does not bring the money in as the same thing. And I think that too many people have maybe concentrated too much on online and neglected their stores. And I think this is a very important message to get over. So,
maybe if I give a good example of when I talk about omni-channel behaviour, it's not always digital only being in the home. So in our colour centres in store, a number of our stores, and more are getting them, have a digital, like a paint calculator and an ability to be sampling and having conversations in store with the paint specialists in the colour centres, and then actually completing an online purchase and having that product delivered to home. So that true removing the friction between online and physical stores, so that customers can choose to start the purchase journey and complete in another channel. That's the stuff we're focusing on, rather than really focusing on the percentage for online.
Yeah, well, probably it's my age, but I just love shopping. I just love going into a physical store. I love going to buy, and rather than doing an online thing. But my son, of course, is quite the opposite. So let's move on to another subject, Andrea. And again, very most impressed by what you've been doing on the training of people and your associates, and getting them motivated, getting them identified. It's a cooperative. You've got 6,000, I think over 6,000 employees altogether. So how do you do that? Because, I mean, you've got owner managers. Is that, tell us how you do your staff training, generally speaking.
Yep, so we've got 7,000 team members across New Zealand. And for us, we're a very values-based business, and it comes. We don't feel like a big business of scale, even though when you add up all of the sales we feel like a collection of small to medium businesses. And for us, workplace culture is key to that. And we really understand that our people experience of our team is the key driver behind the customer experience, and we hold true to that. And we're very, very focused on developing leaders and empowering team members. So we like to push decision making down. We like to have people feel that they're empowered to deliver on the brand promise, which is with you all the way. That's what our brand promise is. And the only way you really achieve that is to give everyone permission to actually see that through. So while we are individually owned and operated from a brand, from a values, from a learning perspective of everything we do, that very much comes from the centre. And we have a wonderful learning team. We've got wonderful digital technology that enables all of that. And that's what's really key for us. So as you said earlier, being a trusted brand, we are recognised by customers as providing superior customer service and advice, and that is what translates into brand trust. So we're very purposeful in how we develop that in our people, and it starts with leadership.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Well, I've got some questions now from Thomas. How has your sourcing changed to reflect this new demand for sustainable products?
Yes, very good question. So just going to have a drink of water.
I'll drink it with you.
All right. Lots of talking. So we've really it's an interesting one, actually. Our commitment hasn't changed, but we've been very, very careful and very cautious in the sustainability space. We observe a lot of what a lot of other industries are doing, and it's been really important to us that we can achieve what we set out to do. So we haven't taken a shotgun approach to sustainability. We've really focused on the things that we feel actually are meaningful to our customers, and that we know we're doing. So our commitment hasn't changed. And that commitment is making a real and sustainable impact on our environment and our operations and our communities that we're a part of. We're very big in the community space. So while we continually add new initiatives to help stores operate more efficiently and new solutions for customers to be able to actually live more sustainably. If I think about the big things that we're doing, we're focusing on product, what we refer to as product stewardship. And the first one that we launched in 2021, which is a big deal, was actually around pot recycling. So by that, I mean the plastic garden pots. I mentioned earlier that we're the largest garden centre in the country. So that's a really good example of recycling something that is meaningful in terms of that's taking 14 million pots out of landfill every year if you're truly recycling them back into fresh pots. And then next we've got batteries and light bulbs about to go live from a product stewardship perspective. The sustainable packaging guidelines is another area that we're really working towards. So down here in New Zealand, there's real push there from both from government and other entities. So those guidelines are getting you towards 2025 for targets, and that's requiring suppliers to remove unnecessary packaging and ensure any remaining packaging is home compostable or recyclable. And that's going to be right across New Zealand by 2025. So it's not far away. There's a lot of work to do there. And then outside of that, we're doing the normal things in terms of carbon footprint, measuring that. We've got ethical and sustainable sourcing policy, and that's been enabled by a partnership with SEDEX, which I'm sure many members on this call would also be with. And that's really given us that real transparency across the supply chain. So I suppose in summary, I've talked about a number of things there, but I guess in summary, we're committed to having a very targeted list of initiatives rather than taking that broad brush approach and trying to be all things to everybody. And as I say, initiatives like plastic garden pot recycling have taken millions of pots out of general household waste. And that's really strongly resonated with our customers as being practical, useful and meaningful to them. And we take them back at any store, even our support centre that you get behind me in the photo, we even take them back there. Because that's a big thing often with these statements. How easy are you making it, or how many barriers are you putting up for customers?
Indeed, I think every CEO must have sustainability, carbon reduction, and everything what is considered by the environment to be very important. I think this is going to be top priority, because I think the consumers tomorrow are going to judge people on what they are doing and how they are working on this area. So it's becoming increasingly important. When I was a CEO, it was never really a theme, but today I think it's very priority. So I've got a question now from Terry Coleman. Terry from Belgium, maybe you know Terry. Oliver, what you said, the mindset of a cooperative is opposite to a franchise model. However, Mitre 10 seems to run a kind of soft franchising model, which is quite unique. Can you clarify how your team manages to harmonize both models, co-op against franchising?
Yes, it's actually, yeah, I'm very happy to talk to that. It's interesting because we get a lot of, we do get a lot of confusion around people assume we are a franchise model. So I would call a strict cooperative a franchise model. I think as Terry's pointed out, we're not a strict cooperative. We aren't that. So we focus on the things that are really important, that we are the same. And then we allow that entrepreneurial spirit to run the rest. And so we operate in a lot of grey. And I think as some good examples, core ranging in terms of what customers need to be able to rely on that they're going to find at every Mitre 10 store. That's important, but we do the same. I think brand standards are important. You know, what's the uniform? How do team operate, whatnot, we do that. So brand standards are really important, but we have that flexibility for stores to be able to have extended range, additional products, and solutions as well, not just products. And I think if I give some examples, it's probably helpful. We've got stores who offer project management services, but they don't all do that. We've got independently imported outdoor furniture by some members, even though they stock the core range, they have an extended range of importing directly from Vietnam. And then we've got, in our South Island of New Zealand, we've got a number of stores who have relationships with local timber suppliers. So they're doing their own sourcing of particular lines of timber. And we muddle along and get that all pretty good. I think as a CEO, the challenge of working in a cooperative, and it's a positive challenge, and it's not just for the CEO, it's for all senior leaders in the business, is that you don't often have mandate. So often there's a menu in a cooperative. So you need to keep the things that are at the mandate end of the scale quite small. We're far better in that entrepreneurial way. So you've got to have a really good ability to influence, because you haven't got the ability to tell on too much at all. But it makes it a lot of fun. And we've got about 65 members, I think, because some of them own 3 or 4 stores. So we've got 65 members in this business. So sometimes I feel like I'm one of 66 CEOs in the business, but it's a lot of fun, and you've got the same goals. So yeah,
you've got the same, you've got to keep a fine balance, because so really, if there wouldn't be an average, but if there was an average, would it be about 80% I have the Mitre 10 core range, and 20% I can do what I feel I want to do in my particular store?
Oh, we have a bit of an informal number of about 15%. You could do your own local ranging, but some stores don't do any local ranging, and others possibly push the limit a bit. But as long as it's working where they are, and they are having good throughput of the core range, because of course the key thing is that we are bulk buying for that core range. So it's really important that our members support that buying program. But we have a lot of flex in there, and it works well.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think 15%, nice balance, I think. So now we've got Ryan Esternard, who is from the DIY International, the editor. How is your online sales organized, given that Mitre 10 is a cooperative? Who operates the online store, and who gets the sales made online?
Yes, so the support centre, we call it a support centre rather than a head office, being a cooperative. Our support centre runs our online platforms, and we have an online platform for both our retail business and for our trade business. But the actual fulfilment, customers have the choice when they come to the website. They can either just order products, and then all the algorithms in the website will decide where that's most sensibly fulfilled from, or a customer can actually select their local store and then see what products available on hand in that store today. So the store that fulfills the order gets the sales, the full sales. And that's how we operate in the cooperative. So we run the website, they do the fulfillment and get the sales as if it was a customer walking in the door.
So the stores do the fulfillment. So if I order something, garden furniture, it wouldn't come from the head office of Mitre or the warehouse of Mitre 10 to me, it would go through a store.
It would, and that for us is the most efficient and fastest fulfillment model. And we've been very proud to be the first to launch 1 hour click and collect in New Zealand, and that ability to pick from store is what supports that. But interestingly, when we went live with that, not many customers actually select that as an option. It's less than what you think. So I would encourage anyone who's afraid of moving to a 1 hour click and collect model, don't be afraid of it. The statistics would say less than 20% of customers will actually choose that, even if it's available.
What happens if I go to the store and it's not ready and I've ordered it 2 hours ago? What would happen?
Well, I doubt that, but they'd run and find it straight away. But I would hope that wouldn't happen, John.
All right. Okay. Okay. Now I've got the last question from the audience anyway, watching. Daniel, customer behavior has changed, but have you seen a change in customer demographics? Some banners have seen an increase in younger customers.
Yes, interesting. I don't know that I would say that in our business, and we do run good customer monitoring there. Our average customer is probably in that, like the bulk of our customer set would be in that 40 to 55, 60 type of age group, and then we do have good younger and older as well. I don't think we've seen a huge change in that. We've certainly seen through the different lockdowns of the pandemic, we've seen different products being bought, but no, I think our customer base has stayed pretty much the same.
The general feeling is globally, I think that the pandemic has made younger people aware of home improvement and it's been there. But I would agree with you. I don't think it's made such a major difference to the customer traffic. I think they've become more interested. So we're coming almost to the close because, gosh, the time goes so quickly that we could have more time, but we don't want to bore anybody. But we haven't really corporate social responsibility. We brushed on that with the sustainability and the carbon footprint and things, and also helping the community. And again, I think that our industry has been really excellent in helping the communities where they're operating. And I know you have this Helping Hands program. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so Helping Hands, that's the umbrella brand for all of our community support programs, whether stores are doing things in their own local community or whether it's a national move that we're doing. If I think about the true national ones that we are doing across New Zealand, the current Helping Hands focus is on what we're calling Project Playground, and that's building epic new playgrounds for primary schools. We've got 3 to be completed this year, and then we'll do another 4 or 5 next year. That's our big national push we're doing. But locally, far more happens locally within a store owner's own remits, and they've got, New Zealand's a relatively young country, but we've got stores that have been operating since the late 1800s. They've got real deep roots in those local communities, and they do so much for community groups and schools and sports clubs. They plant trees, they do community gardens, they renovate community facilities and sports clubs. I've seen them build rugby stadiums. They sponsor events and sports teams. So no, there's a huge amount that Mitre tenants do. And not all of it, in fact, very little of it actually comes from us at the support centre, to be honest.
This is what makes our industry so fascinating, I think. And I think we've been very privileged to work in the home improvement industry, helping people to improve their homes, helping the communities where we are. So I think we've both been very fortunate to have landed in this industry altogether. So, yeah, we could talk a lot more, but let's just come to the closing questions now, Andrea. You've been a member of GIN, or I came to New Zealand, I think, in 2014. And as I said earlier on, I was fascinated by the countryside, by the friendliness of the people. What benefit has it been for Mitre 10 to be a member of GIN?
Yes, well, as you say, we've been members since 2000, and I think it is about 2015. I guess to start with, we're just so excited to be planning an international study tour to the US and Europe this June, and for us, that event there, this year's event in Copenhagen, really anchors the date for us. And I think particularly being somewhat isolated in the Southern Hemisphere, as we talked about earlier, we really look to these bigger markets for true innovation, particularly customer experience leading initiatives. So our networks we've built, and there are many friends in the Mitre 10 cooperative, but they are very special and valued by us. And we're looking forward to renewing as many of these as we can in that next tour. And we really benefit often from, it's not just walking the stores of these just giants in the home improvement space, but it's having that time made available to really talk to our peers in that senior leadership space. And because we're not competing, that wonderful willingness to share knowledge and advice and thinking around, as you say, all of these evolving things around sustainability and corporate social responsibility. We're all finding our way with this. And I think we share and people share with us. And that's been probably the greatest benefit in being a member of GIN, in my eyes, is the world it's opened up for us.
Yeah, I've been very fascinated in the 20 years I've been doing this job, about how willing people are to share and to, you know, I think when we got the pandemic, how everybody shared what they were doing within the stores, and it went throughout the world. And then somebody were talking about curbside, click and collect and all these sort of things. So I think that's been a tremendous benefit. It's been very, very rewarding, of course, seeing a global network like this. And I think this is resulting in our interview today. So it is always, and being a lady anyway, we have now come to the end of the interview. Is there any other comments you would like to make before we close?
No, just that I'm really looking forward to myself and the team meeting new friends and reconnecting with old friends at the upcoming summit, and yourself, John. So really looking forward to that. And I'm not sure how much new we're going to see in the last 2 years. It could be that everyone's just been busy doing managing and surviving through COVID and reimagining their operating model. But we're really excited to be coming. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing you all. And of course, the first event since 2019, where we're in Dublin, we're going to get about 1,000 people. So I've been very surprised, and you yourself are bringing 6 people, I believe, from New Zealand. So, and we've got a very, very good store tour organized in Denmark. I don't know, we're going to fit everybody in who wants to go on the store tour. So it's become very, very popular. And of course, we've then got the study tour to Germany in September, which we've also got a lot of people coming to see. And then next year, our journey to the US. So I think they'll all say, well, thank you very much indeed, Andrea. It's been a delight to talk to you. And I really very seriously mean that I believe the standards of the stores in South Africa, in New Zealand, are really absolutely excellent. And I wish you continued success. So thank you very much. And you're going for dinner. I'm going to have breakfast now. That's part of the world. Good. So it's been lovely to talk to you. And I look forward to seeing you and the members of all your team in Copenhagen in June. So thank you very much indeed. Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Andrea. So, and now I would just like to announce that on the 27th of April at 9 o'clock in the morning, I will have the pleasure to interview Oliver P. Kurt, the CEO of the Messe Essen. He'll be talking about the IPM and the security trade fairs, which are very important for our industry. And this will be the last interview that we'll have in this second session before we meet at the Global DIY Summit. So I think finally, I'd like to thank everybody who's been following this interview throughout the world and who will be streaming it afterwards. A very, very good interview, I think, with Andrea Scown, who is very, very knowledgeable and runs a very successful business. So from me, John Herbert, 9 o'clock in the morning here in Cologne in Germany. Thank you for watching and goodbye.